As I walk out of the office, my phone buzzes one last time. Ethan sending his nightly check-in. "Miss you, beautiful. Can't wait to come home to you." I smile, typing back. "Sleep well, darling. Monday's going to be interesting." He'll think it's just another loving message from his unsuspecting wife. But then again, he always did underestimate me. That's about to become his most expensive mistake. Little does he know, while he's been playing his games, I've been playing a much longer one. 3 years ago, when Ethan first pitched his revolutionary algorithm to the board, I was the one who actually wrote the core code. I was too insecure then to claim credit, fresh out of MIT, intimidated by the Reed family dynasty. So I let him present my work as his own, thinking we were a team. I didn't. Realize then that I was just a pretty accessory to him. The brilliant, beautiful wife who gave up her career to support his. The one he introduced at company parties as gorgeous but more artistic than technical. If he only knew that while he was sleeping, I was refining the algorithm that made, Reed Innovations the tech darling of Boston. If he only knew that every time he made a breakthrough, it was actually me fixing his mediocre code after he went to bed. Monday morning can't come soon enough. Sunday unfolds like the calm before, a hurricane. Ethan is unusually attentive, bringing me coffee in bed, suggesting brunch at our favorite waterfront restaurant. Guilt manifests in strange ways. "I was thinking," he says, reaching for my hand across the table, mimosa halfway to his lips. "After the tech summit, we should take that Santorini trip we've been talking about. Just you and me." I smile, thinking of the reservations already made in his and Natalie's names. "That sounds wonderful, darling. You've been working so hard. You deserve a break." His phone buzzes on the table. I notice how he angles it away. As he checks the notification, a small frown crossing his features. "Everything okay?" I ask, innocence perfected. "Just work," he mutters. "The presentation for tomorrow's board meeting needs some tweaking." What he doesn't know is that I've already seen the presentation. I watched him create it, keystroke by keystroke, through the monitoring software I installed months ago. I've seen how he plans to take full credit for the algorithmic breakthrough that will cement his position as the company's new chief innovation officer. The breakthrough I coded. "Don't let me keep you from your genius," I say, raising my mimosa in a toast. "To your success tomorrow." He smiles, relieved I'm not questioning his obvious lie. "You're the best, Olivia. I don't know what I'd do without you." "You're about to find out," I think, clinking my glass against his. When we return home, Ethan retreats to his office, claiming he needs to polish his presentation. I use the opportunity to make final preparations of my own. In our guest bedroom, which I've converted into my private workspace when Ethan isn't. Home, I connect with David via secure video call. "The forensic analysis is complete," he says, his face serious on my screen. "It's even worse than we thought, Olivia. The theft isn't limited to just the main algorithm. He's stolen at least 17 separate components of your work over the past 3 years." I feel a cold satisfaction as David shares his screen, showing me the detailed comparison between my original code and what Ethan has been passing off as his own innovation. "Look at this!" David highlights a particularly complex function. He didn't even bother changing your unique commenting style in some sections. It's like he assumed no one would ever check. Or, if they did, no one would believe his wife was the actual author. "Classic Ethan," I reply. He thinks technical people won't question him because of his name, and non-technical people won't understand enough to catch him. The perfect cover for mediocrity. David's expression turns sympathetic. "I still can't believe you've been dealing with this alone all this time. Why didn't you reach out sooner?" I consider his question, thinking back to the gradual awakening of my suspicions. At first, I thought we were partners. Then I thought I was imagining things. By the time I was certain, I was already planning this. Well, the evidence is ironclad. Now, no one who sees this could possibly deny that you're the original creator. The timestamps, the coding patterns, the embedded signatures you cleverly hid in the base functions. It's all there. And the patent applications? I ask. Michelle has everything she needs. The evidence of fraud is overwhelming. He pauses, looking concerned. Ethan's going to lose everything, Olivia. His reputation, possibly his position at the company. Are you prepared for what comes next? Am I prepared? I think of all the nights I lay awake listening to Ethan's lies about working late. All the times he patronizingly explained basic programming concepts to me at company functions. All the moments he took credit for my work while introducing me as his beautiful but technically challenged wife. More than ready, I answer, my voice steady. I spend the remainder of the afternoon reviewing the evidence one last time and finalizing arrangements with Michelle. By evening, everything is in place. When Ethan emerges from his office, looking stressed but confident, I have dinner waiting. His favorite seafood pasta paired with an expensive Chardonnay. "You're an angel," he says, kissing my cheek as he sits down. "I don't deserve you." "No," I agree lightly, "you don't." He misses the edge in my voice, too focused on his own concerns. "The board's going to be blown away tomorrow. This presentation will cement everything we've been working toward." I notice his choice of words. We. As if we were partners. As if he hadn't stolen my work and claimed it as his own. As if he hadn't betrayed me professionally and personally. "I'm sure it will change everything," I say, raising my glass. "To new beginnings." He clinks his glass against mine, oblivious to the double meaning in my toast. Later that night, as Ethan sleeps soundly beside me, I slip out of bed and make one final check of my preparations. My outfit for tomorrow is laid out, a power suit, rather than my usual designer dress. My documentation is organized in my leather portfolio. The digital evidence is backed up in 3 separate secure locations. I send a final text to Michelle, confirming the timing for tomorrow. Her response is immediate. "Everything is set. Judge Henderson's office confirmed the 9:30 hearing. Sleep well." I look at Ethan's sleeping form, so peaceful in his ignorance. For a moment, I feel a twinge of, not regret exactly, recognition perhaps of what could have been if he'd seen me as a partner rather than a possession. If he'd valued my mind as much as my appearance. If he'd been the man I thought I married. The moment passes. By this time tomorrow, Ethan Reed will understand exactly who he's been sleeping next to for the past 5 years. And I'll finally reclaim what's mine. Morning arrives with a perfect Boston sunrise, painting the harbor in hues of gold and pink. I awaken before Ethan, slipping into the bathroom to prepare for the day ahead. My movements are deliberate, methodical. Today is not about emotion, it's about execution. I apply my makeup with precision, professional rather than the softer look Ethan prefers. I style my hair sleekly back, emphasizing the angles of my face rather than softening them. When I emerge from the bathroom, Ethan is just stirring. "Big day," I say, adjusting my suit jacket in the mirror. "I thought I'd come to the board meeting to support you." He looks surprised, taking in my unusually formal appearance. "You don't have to do that, babe. It's just going to be boring business talk." "I insist," I say, meeting his eyes in the mirror. "I wouldn't miss your big moment for anything." His phone buzzes, and I watch his expression shift as he reads the notification. Natalie, no doubt, wishing him luck or finalizing their celebratory plans for after the board meeting. "Everything okay?" I ask. "Fine," he says too quickly. "Just a last-minute question from the team." I turn to face him directly. "Ethan, you know I'm proud of you, right? No matter what happens today." He looks touched, mistaking my words for simple encouragement rather than the warning they are. "Thanks, babe. That means a lot." We ride to Reed Tower in silence. Ethan reviewing his presentation notes one last time, me watching the city pass by outside the window. The security guard greets us warmly as we enter the building, and I notice how he addresses Ethan by name but merely nods at me. The nameless wife, the beautiful accessory. I wonder if he'll remember me differently after today. In the elevator, Ethan's nervousness manifests in small adjustments to his tie, quick glances at his reflection in the polished doors. "You'll do great," I assure him, squeezing his arm gently. "Everything you deserve is coming to you today." He smiles, missing my meaning entirely. With you by my side, how can I fail? The boardroom is already filling with Reed Innovations leadership when we arrive. Richard Reed, Ethan's father and company chairman, holds court at the head of the table. Eleanor Reed sits quietly to his right, the family matriarch whose social connections have helped build the company's reputation. Various executives and board members occupy the remaining seats, all waiting for Ethan's presentation on the company's future direction. Ethan guides me to a chair along the wall, away from the main table. "Wait here," he whispers. "This shouldn't take too long." I smile, placing my leather portfolio carefully on my lap. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Richard calls the meeting to order, his authoritative voice silencing the room. Before we begin, I want to thank everyone for being here for this momentous occasion. As you know, we're about to discuss the future direction of Reed Innovations, and my son Ethan has prepared a comprehensive presentation on our new technical strategy. Ethan stands, straightening his papers with practiced confidence. His PowerPoint presentation glows on the screen behind him, slides full of impressive graphics and carefully worded statements that took him weeks to fabricate. "Good morning, everyone," he begins, flashing his 1,000-watt smile. "Today marks a new chapter in the Reed Innovations legacy." 8:59 a.m. My phone vibrates silently in my lap. Michelle's message is simple. "Ready, 9:01 a.m. Ethan clicks to his first slide, pointing out fabricated development milestones with practiced charm. As you can see, our AI algorithm's performance under my guidance has been exceptional. 9:01 a.m. I send a single text, "Now." The effect is immediate but subtle at first. Ethan's phone buzzes in his pocket, probably a notification from the company's security system. He ignores it, continuing his presentation. It buzzes again, and again, and again. 9:02 a.m. The boardroom door opens silently. Judge Henderson's bailiff enters, nodding to me imperceptibly. Behind him, 2 cybersecurity auditors take their places by the door. "And if you'll look at these implementation metrics," Ethan continues, though his phone is now buzzing constantly, and he's starting to look distracted, shifting uncomfortably. "You'll see that our innovative approach to—" His voice trails off as he notices his father checking his own phone, frowning deeply. Other board members are doing the same, their expressions shifting from polite attention to confused concern. 9:05 a.m. The bailiff steps forward, official documents in hand. "Mr. Ethan Reed?" Ethan turns, annoyed at the interruption of his big moment. "I'm in the middle of something here." "You are hereby served with an emergency injunction regarding Reed Innovations' intellectual property," the bailiff announces clearly, his voice carrying to every corner of the suddenly silent boardroom. "By order of Judge Henderson, you are suspended from all access to company repositories and assets pending investigation into serious allegations of code theft and patent fraud." The color drains from Ethan's face as he takes the papers with trembling hands. His phone is still buzzing, probably notifications of his access to company systems being revoked one by one. "There must be some mistake," he stammers, looking around the room desperately. His eyes land on me, seeking support, reassurance, the naive trust he's come to expect. Instead, he finds me calmly opening my laptop, pulling up the folders marked evidence. "No mistake, darling," I say softly, turning the screen so the entire board can see. "Would you like to explain these code comparisons to your family yourself, or shall I?" The first image appears on the boardroom's main screen, replacing his fabricated presentation, a detailed analysis of every line he's stolen, every algorithm he's claimed, every innovation he's falsified. Behind him, Richard Reed stands slowly, his face a mask of shock and growing fury. "Ethan," his father's voice is deadly quiet. "What is this?" Before he can answer, his phone buzzes one final time. He looks at it reflexively, and I know exactly what he's seeing. A notification that his access to all Reed Innovation systems has been suspended. "Perhaps," I suggest, standing smoothly, "we should discuss the real state of the company's intellectual property, starting with these unusual commits to private repositories." Ethan slumps into his chair as I take control of the presentation, remote. Behind him, the cybersecurity auditors begin setting up their equipment. Through the boardroom's glass walls, I can see Michelle and Lisa arriving with boxes of additional evidence. The day of reckoning has only just begun. "Let's start with this particular code segment," I say, clicking to the next slide. The boardroom. Screen fills with a detailed breakdown of a critical algorithm component, side by side with my original work from 3 years ago. Interesting matching patterns, wouldn't you say? Ethan's hands grip the armrests of his chair, knuckles white. Behind him, Richard Reed has switched from shock to cold fury, his jaw clenched as he watches his son's deceptions laid bare. "Of course," I continue, clicking through to the next slide. "That was just the beginning. Shall we discuss the private GitHub repositories registered under your childhood goldfish's name? Or perhaps the series of technical consultations at the Liberty Hotel that coincidentally match perfectly with these Instagram posts?" The screen fills with a carefully curated collection of Natalie's social media posts. It's a photo from last week, him and Natalie at Tiffany's, shopping for what the sales associate described to me as the perfect engagement ring. The company credit card receipt for the purchase still pending in the system. "Engagement rings?" Eleanor Reed's voice is barely a whisper. "While you're still married to Olivia?" "Speaking of marriage," I continue, pulling up another document. "Ethan, darling, why don't you explain to everyone why you've been meeting with divorce attorneys? Or should I share the prenup dissolution papers you had drafted?" The boardroom is deadly silent now. Every eye fixed on Ethan as he realizes just how completely his plans have imploded. His father stands slowly, every inch the powerful patriarch whose legacy his son has betrayed. "Get him out of my sight," Richard orders, his voice trembling with rage, "and call the company lawyers. All of them." As security begins to escort Ethan from the boardroom, his phone buzzes one final time. I know exactly what notification he's receiving. His access to Reed Tower has been revoked, his keycard deactivated, his credentials suspended. "One more thing," I call out just as he reaches the door. "You might want to pack a bag when you get home. The Seaport condo belongs to the company, and as of 9 minutes ago, you're no longer a permitted resident." Ethan turns, his face a mask of disbelief. "Where am I supposed to go?" I smile, remembering all the nights I lay awake while he was with Natalie, planning this very moment. "Perhaps you could stay at the Liberty Hotel?" I suggest sweetly. "Oh wait, your corporate cards have all been frozen. Well, I'm sure Natalie would offer her sofa, but..." I glance meaningfully at the security personnel leading her to questioning. She might be a bit preoccupied. As Ethan is led away, Eleanor Reed approaches me, tears in her eyes. "Olivia, I'm so sorry. We had no idea he was..." "It's not your fault." I squeeze her hand gently. "You raised a good son. He just made very, very bad choices." Michelle appears, at my side with another update. Judge Henderson wants to see you, and the cybersecurity team has found 3 more private repositories. I nod, gathering my things as the security personnel continue their work. Through the glass walls, I can see Ethan being escorted to the lobby, his world collapsing around him. His phone is probably exploding with notifications, frozen accounts, canceled access, suspended credentials. Mrs. Reed, one of the cybersecurity auditors approaches. We'll need a statement about the code theft and repository discrepancies. Of course, I reply, smoothing my skirt as I stand. I believe I have everything you need right here. I pat my portfolio, filled with months of careful documentation, weeks of meticulous planning, and years of quiet observation. Ethan thought he was so clever, playing his games with the company's intellectual property while his trophy wife smiled quietly at his side. He never realized that sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one you should fear the most. The next few hours unfold like a perfectly orchestrated symphony of consequences. From my temporary office in Reed Tower's executive suite, Ethan's former office, ironically, I watch the dominoes continue to fall through multiple screens and live feeds. His attempt to access the Singapore repositories was just denied, Lisa reports, monitoring the security alerts. He tried using his backup credentials, the ones he thought nobody knew about. I smile, remembering how easy it was to find those credentials scribbled in his private notebook, the one he kept in his secret drawer behind our bedroom's Banksy print. How many attempts? 5 so far, each one triggering another alert to the cybersecurity team. My phone buzzes with a notification from our home security system. Ethan has arrived at the Seaport condo, probably hoping to grab some essentials before the locks are changed. Through the camera feed, I watch him frantically shoving designer suits into his luggage, the same suits I helped him select, each one paid for with company money he'll soon have to account for. Should we tell him about the asset freeze? Lisa asks, watching the feed over my shoulder. Let him figure it out, I reply, turning my attention to another screen showing the security personnel interviewing Natalie. Her confident facade has crumbled completely now, mascara streaking down her face as she realizes the full implications of her role in Ethan's scheme. Mrs. Reed, Michelle enters with a fresh stack of documents. The company's financial department just called. They've completed the initial audit of Ethan's corporate expenses. I raise an eyebrow. And? He's been skimming from more than just the R&D budget. They found irregular charges to his grandmother's medical foundation, his sister's educational initiative, even the company's charitable endowment. Eleanor Reed, who's been sitting quietly in the corner trying to process the morning's events, lets out a small sob. The educational initiative? His own nieces and nephews? I move to comfort my mother-in-law, the woman who welcomed me into her family with open arms 5 years ago. We've already reversed the charges, Eleanor. The children's programs are secure. My phone lights up with another notification. Ethan trying to check into the Four Seasons using his corporate card. I can almost see the color drain from his face as the card is declined. Through various feeds and alerts, I track his increasingly desperate attempts. The Ritz-Carlton, declined. The Fairmont, declined. The Mandarin Oriental, declined. His lawyer just dropped him, Lisa announces, checking her messages. Apparently, he tried to pay the retainer with one of the frozen accounts. The firm has concerns about being paid, with potentially misappropriated funds. A commotion in the hallway draws our attention. Through the glass walls, we see Natalie being escorted out by security personnel, her designer handbag now filled with copies of her sworn statement. The look she shoots toward Ethan's former office could freeze hell itself. She gave them everything, Michelle confirms, reviewing the preliminary report. Every meeting, every transaction, every promise he made. Turns out self-preservation trumps loyalty when corporate espionage charges are on the table. My phone buzzes again, a group text from our social circle about the upcoming charity gala at the Boston Museum of Science. Ethan's sister Emily, has already removed him from the planning committee, his name disappearing from the guest list in real time, his social world crumbling as quickly as his professional one. The repository audit team just found something interesting, Lisa calls out, her eyes wide as she reads from her tablet. Remember those business development trips to California? I turned to her, intrigued. The ones where he claimed to be meeting with venture capital partners? He was actually viewing properties, high-end beach houses in non-extradition treaty countries. They found incomplete purchase agreements on his company laptop. Eleanor's head snaps up. He was planning to run? With your intellectual property? But don't worry, I confirmed gently. He won't get the chance now. As if on cue, my phone shows another alert. Ethan's passport has been flagged by the company's security team. No international travel without corporate approval. His world is shrinking by the minute, his options disappearing one by one. The company's crisis management team is ready, Michelle informs us. They've prepared statements for the press, the tech community, and the industry associations. I nod, pulling up the draft announcements on my laptop. The careful wording presents Reed Innovations as victims of Ethan's deception, while emphasizing their swift action to protect the company's intellectual property. No mention of my role. Exactly as I planned. Olivia, Eleanor speaks up, her voice stronger now. The annual Tech Innovation Summit is next week, with Ethan's situation. Perhaps you should take over his keynote. Before I can respond, my phone buzzes with an urgent message from the condo security team. Ethan is trying to access his home office safe, the one he thinks contains emergency cash and backup credit cards. Don't worry, I assure Eleanor, watching Ethan's frustrated attempts through the security feed. I already emptied that safe last week. Everything of value is secure. Lisa's tablet pings with another update. The cybersecurity team just found his deleted emails. You're not going to believe what he was planning for after the divorce. I turn to the large screen on the wall, now displaying a complex web of Ethan's intended post-divorce financial manipulations. Even I'm impressed by the audacity, if not the intelligence, of his schemes. He was going to claim the algorithm violated open-source licensing laws, Lisa explains, highlighting various documents. Threatened to report irregularities to the patent office unless the company paid him a massive settlement. Eleanor gasps. He would blackmail his own family? He would try, I correct her, pulling up another document. But that would have been difficult considering I've had intellectual property experts reviewing and certifying every line of code for the past year. My phone lights up with another notification. Ethan's attempt to access his cryptocurrency accounts. Sorry, darling, I murmur to the screen. Those wallets were transferred to the company's secure digital vault last week, along with everything else you thought you'd hidden so cleverly. Through the office windows, I can see the sun high over Boston Harbor. In the reflection, I catch glimpses of security personnel still combing through files, cybersecurity experts tracking down every stolen line of code, and company lawyers protecting generations of Reed innovation from one man's greed. Mrs. Reed? A senior security investigator approaches. We found evidence of potentially criminal IP theft dating back 3 years. We'll need your statement about when you first noticed irregularities. I retrieve a carefully prepared timeline from my portfolio. I believe you'll find everything documented here. Every commit, every unauthorized transfer, every attempt to circumvent proper attribution protocols. As the investigators continue their work, I receive one final notification for the day. Ethan, having been denied access to every luxury hotel in Boston, has checked into a modest airport motel, paid for with borrowed cash since his accounts remain frozen. Should we tell him about tomorrow? Lisa asks, referring to the emergency board meeting where Ethan will be formally removed from all Reed Innovations enterprises. I shake my head, watching his location dot on my phone's map, so far from the privileged world he's always known. Let him sleep tonight thinking he can still fix this. Tomorrow's revelations deserve a fresh audience. Eleanor stands, gathering her composure along with her Hermes bag. Olivia, we can never thank you enough for protecting the company's intellectual property, for stopping him before he destroyed everything your family spent generations building. I finished gently. Eleanor, when you welcomed me into your family, you made me a Reed. I protect what's mine. As the office slowly empties, I remain at my desk, surrounded by evidence of Ethan's betrayal and my own careful preparation. On one screen, I watch him pacing in his motel room, probably trying to figure out how his perfect plan imploded so spectacularly. On another, I see Natalie checking into a flight to her parents' home in Chicago, her dreams of becoming Mrs. Reed evaporating like morning mist. My phone buzzes one last time, Ethan trying to salvage something from the wreckage of his life. Baby, please, we need to talk. I can explain everything. I smile, thinking of all the nights I lay awake listening to his lies about debugging sessions while I quietly built the case that would bring him down. No need to explain, darling, I text back. The cybersecurity investigators have all the explanations they need. Then I turn off my phone, gather my things, and prepare to head home to the seaport condo that now belongs solely to me. Tomorrow will bring more revelations, more consequences, more dismantling of Ethan's carefully constructed house of cards. But tonight, I'll sleep soundly in our king-sized bed, alone but victorious, while my husband learns what happens when you mistake quiet patience for weakness and underestimate the woman who held the real power all along. While my husband is showing off his new Tesla to the board members, bragging about the revolutionary AI algorithm that made him famous, I'm reviewing documents that will expose who really created that code. As he plans a romantic getaway to Santorini, with his assistant using company funds, I'm orchestrating the biggest reality check of his privileged life. He has no idea that his decorative wife has been gathering evidence for months. The irony of watching him demo his breakthrough program on the same laptop where I secretly installed keyloggers isn't lost on me. I'm about to rewrite his success story with an ending he never saw coming. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The rhythmic click of my stilettos echoes through the marble lobby of Reed Tower as I make my way to Michelle's office. My reflection in the glass doors shows exactly what Boston society sees when they look at Olivia Reed. Designer dress? Perfect. Makeup, expensive handbag, the quintessential trophy wife. The kind who decorates galas and looks beautiful in corporate photos. The kind my husband Ethan has spent years convincing everyone I am. Michelle Santos's corner office overlooks the harbor, a view nearly identical to the one from Ethan's executive, suite 20 floors above. Her smile is sharp as she watches me set my leather portfolio on her desk. Are you absolutely certain about moving forward today? She asks, glasses perched on her nose as she reviews another document. Once you sign these papers, there's no turning back. I turn my phone toward her, showing Ethan's most recent Instagram post from 15 minutes ago. The caption reads, "Innovation happens when you think differently. Sir Genius at work. Leading the future." The photo shows his monogrammed cufflinks as he holds up a champagne flute in the company's VIP lounge. The timing, I say, signing the first document with practiced precision, is perfect. My phone buzzes with a text from Ethan. "Working late tonight, sweetheart. Debugging session with the team. Don't wait up. Love you." I've saved every message like this for the past 6 months. Each one corresponds perfectly with a company credit card charge at high-end restaurants or luxury hotels. The ones he doesn't know I've traced, the ones that match exactly with Natalie's suspiciously expensive Instagram posts, each tagged with not-so-subtle hints about her visionary mentor. What they don't know is that I've known for months. Every emergency debugging session, every client dinner, every suspicious withdrawal from the company's R&D budget. I've documented it all, but unlike most betrayed wives, I didn't confront him. I didn't throw his designer clothes onto our patio or key his precious Tesla. Instead, I did what I do best. I followed the code. This document, Michelle points to a particularly important paper, initiates the formal IP investigation. Once you sign, there's no turning back. I think about this morning, how Ethan kissed my forehead before leaving for work, how he promised we'd plan that trip to Santorini soon. Meanwhile, I'd already seen the Santorini reservations he'd made, not for us, but for him and Natalie next month, paid for with company funds. Good, I say, my signature flowing across the paper. That's exactly what I want. My phone lights up with another notification, an Instagram story from Natalie showing off a distinctive blue Tiffany box captioned, "When he knows exactly what you deserve." I screenshot it, noting the time and date. It matches perfectly with the company credit card charge from 2 hours ago, the one Ethan filed as client appreciation gifts. The cybersecurity team will begin their investigation Monday morning, Michelle explains, organizing the papers. Given what you've already uncovered about the algorithm theft, they'll find twice as much evidence as we already have. I know, I finish for her, pulling up a folder on my phone. Here's every modification he's made to my original code in the past year. The ones he tried to obscure with new variable names and restructured functions. Michelle's eyes widen as she scrolls through the documents. This is incredibly thorough. I had a lot of free evenings, I say dryly. You know, with all his debugging sessions. As if on cue, my phone buzzes with a group chat notification. Our friends planning a weekend barbecue at their Cape Cod house. Ethan responds immediately. Sorry, everyone. Have to skip. Flying to Seattle for an emergency client meeting. I have to suppress a laugh. I know about that business trip, too. I've seen the hotel reservation in Napa Valley. First-class tickets for 2, charged to the corporate account. Last one, Michelle says, sliding the final paper across the desk. This initiates the full intellectual property investigation and patent challenge. I don't hesitate. My signature flows across the paper, years of anger and betrayal channeled into each curve and line. Another notification pops up. Ethan going live on Instagram from what's supposed to be his debugging session, the company's distinctive conference room visible in the background. Let them celebrate, I say, standing up and smoothing my dress, the one Ethan bought me last month out of guilt. By Monday morning, they'll have a very different story to share. Michelle gathers the papers, her expression both impressed and slightly unsettled. You know, in 15 years of handling IP disputes, I've never seen anyone quite as prepared. Strategic, I suggest, picking up my bag. Or maybe just tired of being underestimated. As I walk out of the office, my phone buzzes one last time. Ethan sending his nightly check-in. Miss you, beautiful. Can't wait to come home to you. I smile, typing back. Sleep well, darling. Monday's going to be interesting. He'll think it's just another loving message from his unsuspecting wife. But then again, he always did underestimate me. That's about to become his most expensive mistake. Little does he know, while he's been playing his games, I've been playing a much longer one. 3 years ago, when Ethan first pitched his revolutionary algorithm to the board, I was the one who actually wrote the core code. I was too insecure then to claim credit, fresh out of MIT, intimidated by the Reed family dynasty. So I let him present my work as his own, thinking we were a team. I didn't realize then that I was just a pretty accessory to him, the brilliant, beautiful wife who gave up her career to support his. The one he introduced at company parties as gorgeous but more artistic than technical. If he only knew that while he was sleeping, I was refining the algorithm that made Reed Innovations the tech darling of Boston. If he only knew that every time he made a breakthrough, It was actually me fixing his mediocre code after he went to bed. Monday morning can't come soon enough. The morning after signing those initial papers, I dress with meticulous care. Burberry trench, tailored Max Mara suit, and the Mickey Moto pearl necklace Eleanor Reed gave me last Christmas. The mirror reflects exactly what Ethan expects to see. His perfectly polished wife, the former coding prodigy he loves to introduce as his beautiful but technically challenged partner at company gatherings. If he only knew I spent 4 years leading cybersecurity projects at Google before we met. Good? Morning, darling, I call out as he stumbles into our sleek kitchen, clearly hungover from last night's debugging session. The espresso machine hums quietly, filling our $5 million seaport condo with the aroma of his favorite Ethiopian roast. I made your breakfast, I say sweetly. He kisses my cheek, reeking of expensive cologne and guilt. The same cologne I noticed on Natalie's latest Instagram post from their accidental run-in at Saks yesterday. You're too good to me, babe, he says. If only you knew, I think, sliding his coffee across our waterfall quartz counter. The same counter where I'd sat until 3 a.m. last night on a secure video call with David, my old colleague from Google. David, who now heads their AI ethics division. David, who nearly spat out his whiskey when I showed him what I'd found in Ethan's private code repository. Another early presentation? I ask innocently, watching him check his phone. His lock screen is still our vacation photo from Lake Como last summer, but I know his background is Natalie. I've seen it reflected in his car window when he texts her during our dinner dates. Yeah, the Morrison integration is killing me. He runs a hand through his perfectly styled hair, distracted. The Morrison integration. That doesn't exist. I've already confirmed that Morrison Technologies declined Reed's proposal 6 months ago. Don't work too hard, I say, squeezing his shoulder. He doesn't notice me taking a photo of his phone screen. In the reflection of our refrigerator's stainless surface, capturing Natalie's message about their lunch plans at the new Menton restaurant. After he leaves, I transform our home office into my command center. The framed photos of our wedding at the Boston Public Library disappear into drawers, replaced by printouts of code snippets, algorithm flowcharts, and patent documentation. My friend Lisa, a patent attorney I've known since our MIT days, sits cross-legged on my custom West Elm rug, surrounded by papers. Jesus Christ, she mutters, holding up a document. Did he really think he could hide these code modifications behind a shell repository registered to a Bulgarian server farm? I laugh, but there's no humor in it. He registered it under his childhood goldfish's name, the one that died 15 years ago. Lisa shakes her head, adding the paper to our growing evidence pile. Men like him always think they're the smartest person in the room. That's because they never bother looking around, I reply, pulling up another document on my laptop. Look at this. Every time he meets Natalie, he files it as a technical consultation expense. 5-star restaurants with a woman who's supposedly advising him on interface design, despite not knowing the difference between Java and JavaScript. My phone buzzes. A group text from our friend Thomas about his upcoming charity gala at the Boston Museum of Science. Ethan responds immediately with another excuse. Natalie, I notice, has already marked herself unavailable on the event's planning committee list. They're getting careless, I observe, adding another screenshot to my collection. Confident, Lisa corrects. Have you talked to Judge Henderson yet? I nod, pulling up an encrypted email chain. She's ready. The moment we file on Monday, she'll randomly schedule an emergency hearing about suspicious patent applications. The same hearing that will reveal Natalie's consulting company has been receiving payments for UI expertise since before she even met Ethan. My phone lights up with Ethan's face, his daily check-in call. I answer with practiced cheerfulness, listening to him lie about his lunch meeting while I stare at their restaurant reservation confirmation in my email. The same email account he set up for me, thinking I'd only use it for online shopping. Miss you too, honey, I say, watching Lisa roll her eyes. Don't forget we have dinner with your parents tonight. He pauses, and I can practically hear him texting Natalie to reschedule. Of course, babe. Wouldn't miss it. After hanging up, I turn to Lisa. He'll cancel in about 3 hours. Emergency debugging session. How can you be so sure? I pull up Natalie's Instagram story from this morning, a cryptic post about a special sunset surprise at the new rooftop bar at the Liberty Hotel. Because I know their routine better than they do. The rest of the day unfolds like a carefully choreographed ballet. I attend my regular tech mentorship sessions at Girls Who Code, make appearances at my usual lunch spots, even get my hair done at the salon where Ethan's sister goes. Everything normal. Everything routine. No one would suspect that in my Toomey. Laptop bag. I'm carrying code repositories that will dismantle a decade of Ethan's careful deceptions. Right on schedule at 4:47 p.m., Ethan texts, "Baby, I'm so sorry. Might have to rain check dinner with my parents. Emergency debugging session with the team." I respond with just the right amount of disappointment and understanding, watching through my phone's banking alerts as he makes a dinner reservation at Sorolina, his and Natalie's favorite spot, for their technical consultations. The debugging team hasn't scheduled any sessions, I tell Lisa dryly. I would know. I have admin access to the company calendar. Look what just came in, Lisa says, holding up her phone. Natalie's posted a photo of champagne glasses at sunset, the Liberty Hotel's distinctive Beacon Hill view unmistakable in the background. Perfect, I say, adding the screenshot to our collection. That receipt will match beautifully with the emergency debugging session he's about to charge to the company account. As evening falls, I sit in our meticulously decorated living room, surrounded by evidence of Ethan's double life and my own careful documentation. Every lie, every secret, meeting, every stolen piece of code, all of it meticulously cataloged and cross-referenced. My phone buzzes with another Instagram notification, Natalie wearing a new Valentino dress that costs more than her supposed monthly consulting fee, captioned with a single rocket emoji. I save it to the folder marked Monday and pour myself a glass of Chateau Margaux from the collection Ethan thinks only he has access to in our wine fridge. Let them have their romantic evening, I murmur, scanning through the latest code repository report David sent over. Let them think they're the clever ones playing their little game of hide and seek with the naive wife. I've spent months building this facade of ignorance, and in less than 12 hours, I'll have the pleasure of watching it shatter, along with everything else they thought they could take from me. The forensic coding team finished their preliminary review. Lisa calls from the office, her voice tight with disbelief. You're not going to believe what they found in the private repositories. I join her via secure video, my heels kicked off, as I curl up on our Italian leather sofa. On her laptop screen, a complex web of code theft unfolds, a masterpiece of technical deceit that would be almost impressive if it wasn't so staggeringly stupid. He's been copying your algorithm piece by piece through 3 different shell repositories, Lisa explains, highlighting various code blocks, all registered under variations of his goldfish's name, then funneling it through Natalie's fake consulting firm and into private patents in Singapore. I lean closer, a cold smile playing at my lips. Show me the dates of the first transfers. Lisa pulls up a timeline and my smile widens. Just as I thought. He started moving code the day after I showed him my algorithm prototype. He never even bothered to check if I'd watermarked the original. My phone chimes with a message from Olivia Reed, Ethan's mother. Darling, are you and Ethan still coming for dinner? I've had Cook prepare his favorite bouillabaisse. Poor Olivia Reed. Still believing her son is the same responsible young man who followed his father's footsteps into tech innovation. Wait until she discovers how her precious boy has been treating her family's 3-generation company. What about the company bylaws? Lisa asks, pulling up another document. The ones about intellectual property and ethical conduct. Article 7, Section 3, I quote from memory. Any executive or employee found to be engaging in actions that endanger or diminish the company's intellectual property can be immediately suspended from access pending full investigation. Lisa's eyes gleam. And with Natalie's social media trail, every post, every photo, every location check-in, all matching perfectly with company fund withdrawals and consulting payments, I confirm, pulling up a carefully curated folder on my laptop. They've documented their own misconduct better than we ever could. My phone lights up with another check-in from Ethan. Just wrapped the emergency session, baby. Might be a late one. So much code to review. I text back, don't work too. Hard, darling. Make sure you eat something. Through the window, I can see the lights of the Liberty Hotel, knowing they're up there right now, celebrating what they think is their perfect deception. Ethan probably congratulating himself on how skillfully he's managed to hide his theft of my work. Natalie no doubt already planning how to spend more of Reed Innovations' money. Michelle just confirmed, Lisa says, checking her phone. Judge Henderson has cleared her morning calendar. The moment we file, she'll expedite the hearing. I nod, walking to our floor-to-ceiling windows. The Boston skyline sparkles back at me, a constellation of lights that seems to mirror the intricate web of evidence we've woven. Olivia, Lisa's voice turned serious. Are you absolutely sure about the timing? We could wait until after his keynote at the Tech Summit next week. The whole industry will be there. I turn back to her, thinking of the invitation I'd helped design. The lavish presentation planned at the convention center, where Ethan intends to announce his new role as Chief Innovation Officer of Reed Innovations. The same event where he and Natalie plan to accidentally meet, beginning their public story with a meet-cute his mother would approve of. The timing, I say, picking up another stack of documents, is exactly right. Let him stand in front of the entire tech industry, ready to make his big announcement. Let him feel that moment of triumph. Lisa raises an eyebrow. Right before Judge Henderson's bailiff serves him with the IP theft papers? Poetic, isn't it? My phone buzzes again. A text from Natalie to our charity committee group. So sorry to miss tomorrow's meeting, everyone. Last-minute client emergency. The same meeting where we're supposed to discuss the annual Reed Family Foundation Gala for STEM education. I add the screenshot to our evidence file, then pull up the company's latest project management dashboard. The key milestones that Ethan thinks only he understands glow on my screen. If he'd ever bothered to really look, he'd have noticed that every code commit, every repository transfer, every algorithm update has required dual authentication for the past year. One code from him, one from the repository admin, me. I've watched every line he's tried to hide, every function he's attempted to obscure, every lie he's built his house of cards upon, all while playing the role he assigned me. The beautiful, naive wife who couldn't possibly understand the complexities of advanced programming. His father's office just confirmed. Lisa checks another message. Board meeting scheduled for 9 a.m. Monday. Ethan is supposed to present the new company direction and innovation strategy. I smile, remembering the fabricated reports he's been working on, the fake projections he's created to hide his theft of my algorithm. Perfect. That gives Judge Henderson's team plenty of time to arrive by 9:30. My phone lights up one final time for the night. Ethan sending a photo of code scattered across his laptop screen. Actually, the Liberty Hotel's distinctive desk visible in the corner. Still debugging, baby. Don't wait up. I text back a single heart emoji, then turn to Lisa. Shall we finish preparing his wake-up call? For the next few hours, we meticulously review every document, every piece of evidence, every single detail of what's about to unfold. By the time Lisa leaves, the sun is starting to rise over Boston Harbor, painting our living room in shades of gold that match the embossed letterhead of Reed Innovations. I hear Ethan's key in the door around 6 a.m. He tries to be quiet, but his designer shoes still click against the hardwood floors. I'm already in the kitchen, perfectly dressed, makeup flawless, starting the coffee maker. "You're up early," he says, trying to hide his surprise and the faint trace of Natalie's signature Joe Malone perfume on his collar. "Thought you could use some breakfast after your late night," I smile, sliding him a cup of coffee. "Must have been some important debugging session." "You know how it is," he waves vaguely, not meeting my eyes. "Sometimes these things can't wait." "Oh, darling," I think, watching him check his phone under the table, no doubt messaging Natalie about their close call. "You have no idea how right you are. Just a few more hours until Monday morning, when they learn exactly what happens when you mistake silence for ignorance and underestimate the woman you thought you'd fooled. Tuesday morning brings the kind of headlines you can't buy with PR spin. Reed Innovations, CTO suspended amid IP theft allegations. Scandal rocks Boston tech scene. Algorithm controversy at Reed. Tech titans tumble. Inside the Reed IP investigation. Brilliant wife behind Reed's success? Olivia Reed steps forward. I read them all from the comfort of my temporary office at Reed Tower, sipping the rare Japanese matcha Ethan always claimed was too expensive for daily consumption. The irony of enjoying his executive perks while watching his world burn isn't lost on me. "The tech community is in an uproar," Lisa announces, entering with a fresh stack of financial reports. 3 other prominent companies have already requested audits of their own IP registrations. Apparently, Ethan's scheme has everyone questioning their star developers. "His mother's on her way up," Michelle adds, checking her phone. "Security just called from the lobby." I nod, setting down my matcha. Eleanor Reed has always been the family's moral compass, and I know this meeting won't be easy for her. "Olivia?" Eleanor sweeps in, still elegant despite her obvious distress. "Have you seen the latest? They're calling it the algorithm scandal of the decade." I guide her to the sitting area, noting how her eyes linger on the empty spaces where Ethan's awards once hung. "The media will move on to the next scandal soon enough," I say gently. "What matters is protecting the company's innovations." "The cybersecurity team found something else," she says quietly, pulling out a folder. "Something worse." I take the documents, though I already know what they'll show. Ethan hadn't just been stealing my code. He'd been systematically looting the company's research archives, his sister's educational software project, his cousin's medical technology patents, even his father's early algorithmic innovations. We knew he was troubled, but this? Eleanor's voice breaks. His own family? "Everything will be restored," I assure her, handing over the recovery plan I'd prepared months ago. "Every stolen line of code has been traced and reclaimed." My phone buzzes with an update from the cybersecurity investigation team. They've found Ethan's secret cloud storage account. Inside, thousands of documents detailing years of intellectual theft. All the evidence needed for formal charges. "Mrs. Reed," my assistant calls from the doorway. "Mr. Ethan is in the lobby demanding to be let up. He's not taking no for an answer." I pull up the security feed on my laptop. Ethan, disheveled and desperate, is arguing with the security guards. His Tom Ford suit, the one he wore to so many debugging sessions with Natalie, is wrinkled from a night in the airport. "Motel. Should I call for backup?" the assistant asks. "No need," I reply, pressing a button on my phone. Police are already on their way. Anonymous tip about a person attempting to access secure premises after being explicitly prohibited. Eleanor flinches at my words but doesn't object. Even a mother's love has its limits. "The board is meeting in an hour," Michelle reminds me, checking her calendar. "They'll want your statement about assuming emergency technical oversight." I nod, gathering my materials. In the background, my screens show multiple scenes unfolding simultaneously. Ethan being escorted from the building by police. Natalie giving another tearful interview, painting herself as another victim of his deception. Security personnel boxing up evidence from his personal devices. tech journalists speculating about the scandal's impact on the upcoming Boston Innovation Summit. "Olivia," Eleanor speaks up suddenly, "there's something I need to tell you about why Richard made you technical advisor 3 years ago." I turn to my mother-in-law, curious. This is one piece of the puzzle I never fully understood. "We knew," she says simply, "about Ethan's tendencies. The code manipulation, the credit stealing, the constant need for validation. Richard saw it happening at the company, watched him taking credit for other developers' innovations. So you needed someone to protect the company's intellectual property from your own son?" I finish quietly. Eleanor nods, tears in her eyes. "We interviewed dozens of technical experts, considered professional advisors from all the top firms. But Richard said we needed someone Ethan would underestimate, someone he'd never suspect of watching his every commit. The trophy wife he thought he'd chosen for her looks rather than her mind," I add, understanding dawning. "When we learned about your background in cybersecurity, your experience with algorithm development." Eleanor manages a small smile. "Well, let's just say Richard has always had an eye for talent." My phone buzzes again, more updates flooding in. Ethan's membership at the Boston Technology Council, revoked. His position on the MIT Advisory Board, suspended. His speaker slot at next month's AI conference reassigned. His invitation to the Governor's Innovation Gala, rescinded. His attorney sent over a proposal, Michelle mentions, holding up another document. He's offering to sign a full confession in exchange for maintaining his title and a reduced role at the company. I almost laugh at the audacity. Let me guess, he still thinks he has something to negotiate with? He's claiming he has evidence of historical company code irregularities, says he'll go public if we don't meet his demands. This time I do laugh, pulling up a particular file on my laptop. "You mean these repositories?" I turn the screen to show decades of pristine code documentation, each commit verified, each function properly attributed. The ones I've had independent auditors reviewing and certifying for the past year. Through the window, I watch as Ethan is driven away in a police car, his final attempt at blackmail failing as spectacularly as his other schemes. On my other screens, Reed Innovation's technical operations continue smoothly, the transition of leadership already complete. "The board is ready," my assistant announces. They're waiting in the main conference room. I gather my things, preparing to officially accept control of Reed Innovation's technical future. Eleanor stands with me, straightening her shoulders with renewed strength. "Olivia," she says softly, "thank you. Not just for stopping him, but for saving him from himself. If he'd continued much longer, the damage would have been irreparable. To the company and to his personal reputation," I finish. "I know. That's why I had to act now." As we head to the conference room, my phone shows one final notification for the day. Ethan checking into an even cheaper motel, this time near the state line. How far the mighty have fallen. "Mrs. Reed," Michelle calls out. "Judge Henderson's office just confirmed the emergency hearing is set for tomorrow morning. They'll want your full testimony about the algorithm's creation and theft." I nod, already prepared. My evidence is organized, my statement drafted, my strategy in place. Tomorrow, Ethan will learn the full extent of his mistakes. Not just the intellectual theft, but the fatal error of underestimating the woman he married. "One last thing," Lisa adds. "The company's PR team wants to know how to handle the press. They're calling you everything from coding Avenger to Silicon Savior." "Tell them no comment," I reply, stepping into the elevator. The code speaks for itself. As we ascend to the boardroom, I think about the day Ethan first brought me home to meet his family. How he introduced me as his beautiful art history major with a cute hobby in computer programming, emphasizing my looks while dismissing my intellect. How he never bothered to read my actual credentials, never questioned why his father chose his new daughter-in-law as technical advisor. His last text message still sits unanswered on my phone. Please, baby, just tell me what you want. I'll do anything. Too late, Ethan. Too late by exactly 3 years, 4 months, and 22 days. The time it took me to document every lie, trace every theft, and prepare for this moment of perfect justice. The boardroom doors open, revealing the assembled Reed Leadership Council. Time to show them exactly why Richard chose me to protect their legacy, and why Ethan's biggest mistake wasn't stealing my code, but underestimating the woman who created it all along. 1 month later, the dust has finally begun to settle. I sit in my new office, the corner suite that once belonged to Richard Reed, reviewing the latest algorithm performance metrics. The Boston skyline stretches out before me, a testament to generations of Reed innovation that I helped preserve. The MIT Technology Review piece just went live, Lisa announces, entering with her tablet. Today's headline: Reed Algorithm Renaissance, How Strategic Leadership Saved a Tech Empire. Any mention of Ethan? I ask, though I already know the answer, only as a cautionary tale. They're calling it the ultimate case study in intellectual honesty. Your quotes about innovation integrity are featured prominently. I smile, remembering the interview I'd given last week. I'd been careful to focus on the importance of proper attribution rather than personal drama. The Reeds, after all, still had a reputation to maintain. My phone lights up with a notification from the district attorney's office. Ethan's plea deal has been finalized. In exchange for a reduced sentence, he's agreed to provide evidence against larger IP theft schemes he'd become entangled with. His new accommodations are quite a step down from the Four Seasons, Lisa observes dryly, showing me the minimum security facility's location. Though I hear the orange jumpsuit brings out his eyes. Natalie sent another request, Michelle adds, entering with more papers. She's offering to write a tell-all about Ethan's schemes in exchange for a consulting position at one of the Reed satellite offices. Tell her the company already has all the consultants it needs, I reply, pulling up our evidence files. Her Instagram post provided more than enough documentation. Through my office windows, I can see the company's development team hard at work under my leadership. They've already expanded on my original algorithm, implementing new features and safeguards that Ethan never could have conceived. Mrs. Reed, my assistant calls over the intercom, the board is ready for your quarterly presentation. I gather my materials, including the comprehensive innovation pipeline I've implemented since taking control. The numbers tell a story of resurrection, intellectual property secured, innovations accelerated, legacy protected. Olivia, Richard greets me warmly as I enter the boardroom. He's fully recovered from his heart surgery, thanks partly to the stress reduction of knowing his company's innovations are in capable hands. Speaking of innovations, Lisa interjects, checking her messages. Ethan's old academic circles have been quite active. MIT just revoked his distinguished alumni status permanently. I take my place at the head of the boardroom table, the same spot where Ethan once practiced his fraudulent presentations. The symmetry isn't lost on me. Before we begin, I address the assembled board. I want to share some updates about our enhanced security measures. My presentation outlines the new system of checks and balances I've implemented, multiple layers of oversight, regular code reviews, transparent attribution. Everything Ethan tried to circumvent now strengthened. Beyond manipulation. The security team found something interesting in Ethan's old files, Michelle mentions during a break. Love letters to Natalie written on company letterhead. He was planning to propose at the tech summit. How romantic, I comment dryly. Nothing says true love like stolen algorithms. My phone buzzes with another update. Ethan's lawyer making one last desperate attempt at negotiation. He's offering to reveal the location of more hidden code repositories in exchange for a reduced restitution payment. Tell him not to bother, I instruct Michelle. We've already found everything, including the GitHub account he thought was untraceable. The afternoon brings a steady stream of developments. Ethan's remaining industry memberships canceled, his social media accounts suspended, his technical reputation destroyed, his standing in Boston's innovation circles irreparable. His sister called, Lisa informs me. She's ready to sign over her educational software project oversight to you as well. Says she can't think of anyone better to protect their intellectual property. I accept the responsibility with a nod. The Reed educational initiatives will be secure, a stark contrast to their creator's current situation. The media wants to know if you'll attend next month's Women in Tech Gala, my assistant mentions. You're being honored for your work in algorithm development and IP protection. Confirm the attendance, I decide, but keep the focus on innovation integrity, not personal drama. As evening approaches, I review one final set of documents, the complete record of Ethan's downfall. Intellectual theft documented, personal, betrayal proven, technical fraud exposed, family reputation preserved, justice served. My phone shows one last notification for the day. Ethan's final attempt to access his old code repositories from the detention center's computer lab. Even now, he hasn't quite accepted his new reality. Should we tell him about the scholarship? Lisa asks, referring to the new Reed Family Coding Initiative for young women that I've established. It's rather ironic using recovered funds from his theft to educate the next generation of female programmers. Let him read about it in the tech blogs, I reply, closing my laptop. I hear they deliver to minimum security facilities. Eleanor appears in my doorway, her eyes bright with unshed tears. Olivia, we just got Ethan's letter. He's finally apologizing. Says he understands now what he lost. Too late, I observe quietly. By exactly 3 years, 5 months, and 16 days. We stand together at my office window, watching the sunset over Boston Harbor. Somewhere in a minimum security facility, Ethan sits in a cell, probably wondering how his perfect life unraveled so completely. Somewhere in Chicago, Natalie works. At her parents' marketing firm, her dreams of tech industry fame shattered like the trust she helped betray. And here I stand in the office that once represented everything Ethan thought he deserved, protecting the innovations he tried to steal. My phone buzzes with an incoming email, another technology publication requesting an interview about algorithm, development, and IP protection. They're calling you the new face of ethical innovation, Eleanor mentions, reading over my shoulder. The woman who modernized code attribution and oversight. I smile, thinking of all the nights Ethan spent explaining basic programming concepts to his simple wife, never realizing he was lecturing a cybersecurity expert about his own impending exposure. The company lawyers want to know if you'll consider writing a book, Lisa adds, about protecting intellectual property from internal threats. Perhaps, I muse, gathering my things for the day. I certainly have enough material. As I prepare to leave, my security feed shows Ethan's last possessions being removed from the Seaport condo. His beloved vinyl collection, his designer electronics, his carefully curated coding books, all being liquidated to repay his debt to the company. One last thing, Michelle calls out. The prosecutors want to know if you'll testify at his sentencing hearing next month. I consider this, remembering every lie, every betrayal, every moment he underestimated me. No need, I decide. The code speaks for itself. Stepping into my private elevator, I think about the day Ethan first brought me home to meet his family, how he showcased me like a prize, never bothering to look deeper than the surface, how he dismissed my interest in algorithm development as cute. My phone holds his final message, sent through his lawyer this morning. I finally understand what you were protecting, what I threw away. I'm sorry. Too late, Ethan. You never realized that the real power wasn't in the code itself, but in the intellect you betrayed. And now you have the rest of your sentence to contemplate the true cost of underestimating the woman who held your future in her hands all along. 6 months after Ethan's sentencing, I stand at the podium of the Boston Technology Forum, addressing a room full of the city's most prominent developers and tech leaders. The irony isn't lost on me. Speaking about algorithm integrity to the same people who once dismissed me as nothing more than a trophy wife. The greatest threat to innovation, I tell them, my voice carrying clearly through the grand ballroom of the Boston Public Library, isn't external. It's the complacency that comes from believing your position is untouchable. The audience hangs on every word. After all, the Reed algorithm case has become required reading at top computer science programs. Mrs. Reed, one of the senior executives, from Google approaches after my speech, your insights on intellectual property protection are revolutionary. Would you consider joining our ethics advisory board? I smile, remembering how Ethan used to explain basic coding concepts to me at gatherings like this. I'll have my office send over my credentials. Michelle appears at my elbow with updates from the morning's developments. 3 more tech companies requesting our IP protection protocols, 2 interview requests from cybersecurity publications, 1 desperate letter from Ethan still trying to explain himself from minimum security. The STEM Education Foundation. Launch is trending, she adds, showing me her tablet. They're calling it a paradigm shift in preparing young women for tech careers. My phone buzzes with a message from the federal prosecutor's office. Ethan's recent testimony has finally been processed. In exchange for a slightly reduced sentence, he's admitted to everything, even the code manipulations we hadn't uncovered yet. His cellmate says he spends his days teaching basic programming to other inmates, Lisa mentions, joining us. Apparently, he's finally learning how to properly attribute collaborative work. Better late than never, I observe. A notification pops up on my phone. Natalie has resurfaced, this time teaching tech ethics for marketers at her parents' firm in Chicago. Her LinkedIn bio now reads, Surviving Tech Toxicity, My Journey to Authentic Innovation. At least, someone learned something, Michelle comments dryly. The board meeting is in an hour, my assistant reminds me gently. They're voting on the new development structure you proposed. I gather my materials, including the comprehensive framework I've spent months developing. Reed Innovations won't just survive this crisis, it will emerge stronger, setting new standards for the tech industry. Olivia! Richard's voice booms across the ballroom. He's fully recovered now, his natural vigor restored once the stress of Ethan's betrayal was removed. The Harvard Business School case study about your handling of the crisis just went live. They're already incorporating it into next semester's ethics curriculum. I join him at a quiet corner table, accepting a glass of champagne. How's Eleanor? Holding up? I ask. Better, he sighs. The therapist says accepting Ethan's true nature was the first step. Your protection of the company gave her the space to focus on healing. My phone shows another alert. Ethan's former office has been completely transformed into the Reed Center for Ethical Coding. The plaque outside reads, Protecting Innovation Through Integrity. The cybersecurity team finished processing the last of his restitution payments. Michelle approaches with more updates. Every dollar he misappropriated has been recovered and reinvested in the foundation. Through the ballroom's windows, I can see the Boston skyline, the same view Ethan used to boast about controlling from his corner office. Now that same office serves as command central for protecting tech innovations from people like him. The industry is calling it the Reed Standard. Lisa shows me another article. Your protocols for intellectual property governance are being adopted by companies across the country. I think about the day Ethan first showed me his company's offices, how he patronizingly explained the concept of algorithms while I mentally cataloged every weakness in their security system. Your next appointment is here, my assistant announces. The Cambridge Analysis team wants to discuss implementing your oversight systems. As I prepare for the meeting, My security feed shows one last image of Ethan's former life being dismantled, his prized gaming setup being auctioned to repay his debt to the company. The same setup he used to lecture me about, never realizing I'd designed similar systems during my time at Google. Judge Henderson called, Michelle adds. She's recommending your case as required reading for tech patent judges. Says it's the most comprehensive IP protection strategy she's ever seen. My phone buzzes with a notification from the minimum security facility. Ethan has requested permission to enroll in online ethics courses. Trying to understand where I went wrong, his note reads. Should we tell him about the Foundation's new educational program? Lisa asks. The one teaching coding students how to detect and prevent internal IP theft? Let him figure it out, I reply, straightening my blazer. He always said he learned best through experience. Eleanor joins us, elegant as ever in her role as family matriarch. The Innovation Gala Committee has a suggestion. They want to honor you as guardian of legacy. I shake my head, remembering all the galas where Ethan paraded me around like an accessory. No honors, the secured innovations, speak for themselves. Through my phone, I watch various scenes unfold across the city. Federal investigators using my case to train new IP specialists. Computer science programs teaching the Reed case as a masterclass in algorithm protection. Tech columnists speculating about Ethan's life behind bars, developers studying my coding methods. One last thing, Lisa calls out as I head to my next meeting. Ethan's old coding club is reopening their membership. They want to submit your name as his replacement. I smile, thinking of all the times he used that club to impress potential mistresses, flaunting the technical prowess he was secretly stealing. I have a better idea. Let's turn it into another foundation office, something about ethical coding for future generations. The afternoon sun streams through the library's windows, catching the diamond on my left hand, not my engagement. Ring from Ethan, but my grandmother's ring, a symbol of true intellectual legacy. On my desk, the latest algorithm performance reports show growth that would have been impossible under Ethan's manipulation. Mrs. Reed, my assistant interrupts gently. The Wall Street Journal is here for your interview about transforming tech. Governance. I gather my thoughts, remembering every step of this journey. The quiet wife who watched and waited, the technical expert who documented every lie, the leader who protected generations of innovation, the woman who refused to be underestimated. My phone shows one final notification for the day. Ethan's lawyer making a last desperate pitch for leniency. He's a changed man, the message pleads. He understands now what he lost. Too late, I think, heading to the interview. Some lessons come at a price no algorithm can calculate. As I take my seat across from the journalist, I catch my reflection in the window. No longer the trophy wife Ethan thought he married, but the guardian of innovation he never knew he needed. The reporter's first question makes me smile. Mrs. Reed, how does it feel to have revolutionized tech ethics and IP protection? It feels, I reply, thinking of Ethan in his cell finally learning the true meaning of attribution, exactly like justice. I gather my materials for the board meeting, tucking away the detailed evidence folders into my leather portfolio. The Reed Innovations logo embossed on its cover gleams under the office lights, the same logo Ethan had printed on the business cards he handed out so liberally at tech conferences, always introducing himself as the visionary behind their groundbreaking algorithm. Walking through the executive floor, I notice how differently the staff regard me now. Gone are the polite smiles and barely concealed pity for the boss's pretty wife. Today, their gazes hold respect, perhaps even a touch of awe. Word travels, fast in tech circles, and by now, everyone knows who really wrote the code that made Reed Innovations a billion-dollar company. The boardroom falls silent as I enter. Richard Reed sits at the head of the table, his expression grave but resolute. The other board members, mostly family members and a few trusted industry veterans, Watch me with expressions ranging from curiosity to admiration. The empty chair where Ethan usually sits feels conspicuous in its vacancy. Mrs. Reed, Richard begins formally, "Thank you for joining us during this unprecedented situation." I take my seat, placing my portfolio on the polished mahogany table. "I think under the circumstances you might as well call me Olivia." A small smile cracks through Richard's stern facade. Olivia, then. The board has convened this emergency session to address the serious allegations against my son and to determine immediate leadership actions for our technical division. "I believe I have all the information you need," I say, opening my portfolio and extracting the first set of documents, a comprehensive technical analysis of the algorithm's original creation, complete with timestamps, versioning history, and my digital signatures embedded in the core functions. The company's chief security officer, a veteran programmer named James Chen, no relation to me despite the shared surname, takes the documents and begins reviewing them, his expression growing increasingly grim. "This is extraordinarily thorough," he finally says, looking up at me with newfound respect. "You've documented everything down to the individual function calls. And these embedded signatures, it's almost as if you knew someday you'd need to prove authorship." "A good programmer always signs their work," I reply evenly, even when they believe they're collaborating with someone they trust. Richard clears his throat, clearly uncomfortable with the personal dimension of this professional catastrophe. "The board needs to make an immediate decision about technical leadership. With Ethan unavailable, we face a critical gap in our executive team." Eleanor, who has taken a seat beside her husband, speaks up. "I believe we all know the obvious solution. Olivia is not only the original creator of our flagship algorithm, but also holds a master's degree in computer science from MIT and worked at Google for 4 years before joining our family." Several board members exchange surprised glances. Clearly, Ethan wasn't the only one who had been portraying me as merely decorative. "Is this true?" asks Victoria Reed, Ethan's cousin and head of the marketing division. I smile slightly. "My credentials were submitted to HR when Ethan and I married. I'm surprised more people didn't bother to read them." "Well, I did," Richard says firmly, which is precisely why I appointed Olivia as a technical advisor 3 years ago, a role she has fulfilled with remarkable discretion and competence, despite certain obstacles. The board members digest this information, several looking embarrassed at their own assumptions about me. "I propose we appoint Olivia Reed as Interim Chief Technology Officer, effective immediately," Richard continues. "She knows our systems better than anyone, created our core intellectual property, and has already demonstrated exceptional leadership during this crisis." The vote is unanimous. Just like that, I am officially Ethan's replacement and his boss, should he ever return to the company in any capacity. As the meeting adjourns, Richard asks me to stay behind. When the room empties, leaving just Richard, Eleanor, and myself, his professional demeanor softens. "Olivia, I owe you an apology," he says gravely. "I suspected Ethan was taking liberties with attribution, but I never imagined the extent of his deception. If I had known—" "You did the best you could with the information you had," I interrupt gently. "And you did place me in a position to monitor and document everything. That was no accident, was it?" Richard exchanges a look with Eleanor before responding. "When we first met you, I recognized something in you, a brilliant mind that Ethan seemed determined to ignore or minimize. The more he dismissed your technical abilities, the more curious I became. When I reviewed your actual credentials, I knew immediately you were exactly what this company needed. So you created the technical advisor position for me," I finish, knowing Ethan would underestimate me and potentially reveal his true activities. Eleanor reaches across the table, taking my hand. "We love our son, Olivia, but we also knew his flaws, his need for validation, his shortcuts, his inability to see the brilliance right in front of him. We had hoped that with your guidance, he might become better. Instead, he became worse, I say quietly. Richard nods grimly. And now we face the difficult task of rebuilding not just the company's systems, but its reputation. The tech community values innovation, but it values integrity even more. I already have a plan for that, I say, pulling out another document from my portfolio. This one outlining a comprehensive strategy for not just damage control, but transforming Reed Innovations into a leader in ethical development practices. As Richard reviews the document, his expression shifts from concern to cautious optimism. This is remarkable. You've anticipated everything. The technical restructuring, the patent reattribution process, even a new ethical coding framework for the entire organization. I've had time to think about it, I say simply. While my son was busy taking credit for your work and pursuing his extracurricular activities, Eleanor adds, a hint of bitterness creeping into her voice. My phone buzzes with a notification from the security team. Ethan has been released by the police with a warning, but has been officially barred from Reed Tower premises pending the formal investigation. The security feed shows him standing on the sidewalk outside, staring up at the building with a mixture of rage and disbelief on his face. He still doesn't understand what's happening, I observe, showing Richard and Eleanor the feed. He thinks this is some temporary misunderstanding that his charm and family connections will fix. He'll need to face reality eventually, Richard sighs. The evidence is overwhelming. What will happen to him legally? Eleanor asks, her maternal concern still evident despite everything. I close my portfolio, considering how to frame my response delicately. The company has a decision to make. You can pursue criminal charges for intellectual property theft, or you can handle this as an internal matter with civil consequences only. And what would you recommend? Richard asks, studying me carefully. That depends on what you value. More, justice or family peace? Eleanor and Richard exchange another meaningful look, communicating in that silent language long married couples develop. We'll need time to consider our options, Richard finally says. In the meantime, I believe you have a company to run. I stand, gathering my things. Actually, I have something even more important to do first. What's that? Eleanor asks. Recognize the real innovators on our team. There are at least 7 developers who've had their ideas co-opted or minimized over the years. My first act as CTO will be to ensure proper credit is finally given. Richard smiles, the first genuine smile I've seen from him in months. That's why you're exactly the leader we need. As I leave the boardroom, my assistant falls into step beside me, tablet in hand. Mrs. Reed, Chief Reed, you have 17 urgent messages, including 3 from Mr. Ethan's lawyer and 1 from Ms. Parker requesting a meeting. Natalie Parker wants to meet? I ask, slightly surprised. That's interesting. She says she has information that would be valuable to the company's interests. I bet she does, I murmur. Schedule her for tomorrow morning with security present. And tell Ethan's lawyer I'll be available after I meet with the development team today. And the press? They're camped out in the lobby. No comments yet. I want to speak with our team first. They deserve to hear the truth directly from me, not from tech blogs or Twitter. My assistant nods appreciatively. The team will respect that. The development floor of Reed Innovations occupies 3 stories of prime Boston real estate, with sweeping views of the harbor and state-of-the-art workstations. As I enter the main workspace, the usual buzz of activity quiets, all eyes turning toward me. These are the real builders, the ones whose innovations Ethan has been harvesting for years while treating them as interchangeable code monkeys. I take a deep breath and step to the front of the room. I imagine you've all heard rumors about what's happening, I begin, scanning the room of surprised faces. Rather than let speculation continue, I wanted to speak with you directly. As of this morning, I have been appointed Interim Chief Technology Officer of Reed Innovations, following the suspension of Ethan Reed pending an internal investigation into intellectual property appropriation. A murmur ripples through the assembled developers. I notice a few exchanging knowing glances. They've suspected something like this for a while. Some of you may know me only as Ethan's wife, I continue. Others may have heard him refer to me as his non-technical partner. What you probably don't know is that I was a senior security engineer at Google before joining Reed Innovations, and I'm the original author of the core algorithm that forms the foundation of our flagship product. The murmurs grow louder. On some faces, I see shock. On others, particularly the women and more junior developers, I see something that looks suspiciously like vindication. But I'm not here to talk about myself. I'm here because I know Ethan wasn't just taking credit for my work. Many of you have experienced similar treatment. Having your innovations attributed to others, watching your code become part of executive projects with your names conspicuously absent from the commit history. A tall woman in the back, Sophia Zhang, one of their most talented but consistently overlooked developers, speaks up. Are you saying there's going to be an audit of all code attribution? Yes, I confirm. Starting today, I've assembled an independent team of code reviewers who will be conducting a thorough analysis of our repositories, commit histories, and documentation. Their goal is simple: ensure every contributor receives proper credit for their work. The room erupts in a mixture of applause and excited conversation. For many of these developers, attribution isn't just about ego, it's about career advancement, compensation, and respect. This isn't about punishment, I clarify once the noise subsides. It's about correction. Reed Innovations was founded on principles of innovation and integrity. We're simply recommitting to those values. After addressing a few more questions, I invite the 7 developers I've identified as having suffered the most egregious credit theft to meet with me privately. In my new office, Ethan's former space, already stripped of his awards and vanity wall, I lay out a simple proposition: full attribution restoration, appropriate compensation adjustments, and leadership roles in the restructured development team. Sophia Zhang studies me with cautious optimism. Why should we believe things will be different under your leadership? You're still a Reed. By marriage, not by blood, I point out. And I've experienced exactly what you have. The difference is, I was in a position to document everything and force accountability. Another developer, Raj Patel, leans forward. What about our past work? Will we get retroactive credit for the features that shipped under senior developers' names? That's exactly what the audit will determine, I assure him. And yes, that includes financial recognition for patents and major innovations. By the time they leave my office, the mood has shifted from skepticism to cautious hope. They've lived under a system that devalued their contributions for so long that genuine recognition feels almost suspicious. My phone buzzes with a notification that Ethan's lawyer has arrived. I instruct security to escort him up, but only him. Ethan is still banned from the building. Martin Goldstein is exactly what you'd expect from a high-powered Boston attorney. Expensive suit, carefully cultivated, gravitas, and the smooth confidence that comes from decades of making problems disappear for wealthy clients. Mrs. Reed, he begins, settling into the chair across from my desk without waiting for an invitation. This situation has escalated unnecessarily. I'm sure we can reach an amicable resolution that protects everyone's interests. I smile politely. I'm listening. My client is willing to acknowledge certain oversights in properly attributing collaborative work. He proposes a joint statement acknowledging your contributions to the algorithm, a suitable adjustment to your compensation package, and his return to the company in a restructured role that would report directly to the board rather than through the standard executive chain. I lean back in my chair, letting the silence stretch just long enough to become uncomfortable. Mr. Goldstein, let me be clear. This isn't about oversights or collaborative work. Your client systematically stole intellectual property, not just from me, but from numerous developers. We have documented evidence of deliberate code theft, repository manipulation, and fraudulent patent applications spanning years. This isn't a negotiation about hurt feelings. It's a legal matter involving corporate espionage. Goldstein's professional veneer cracks slightly. Those are serious allegations. They're documented facts, I correct him, sliding a thin folder across the desk. This is a summary of what we've already confirmed through independent auditors. The full report runs to over 300 pages. He opens the folder, scanning the contents with growing concern. I see. Your client has 3 options, I continue calmly. 1. He can cooperate fully with our internal investigation, make complete restitution, and resign with a non-disclosure agreement that would allow him to quietly pursue opportunities elsewhere, though not in the tech sector. 2. He can fight this, in which case, Reed Innovations will pursue full criminal charges for intellectual property theft, wire fraud, and misappropriation of corporate resources. 3. He can admit his actions, accept a demotion to a non-leadership, roll with appropriate supervision, and work to earn back trust over time. Goldstein closes the folder, his expression unreadable. And which outcome are you hoping for, Mrs. Reed? That's irrelevant. This is a business decision, not a personal vendetta. With all due respect, given your relationship with my client, it's difficult to separate the personal from the professional in this case. I lean forward, meeting his gaze directly. Mr. Goldstein, your client didn't just steal code. He systematically undermined, belittled, and exploited talented people. While presenting himself as a visionary, he didn't just betray me as a husband, he betrayed this company's core values. My personal feelings about him are immaterial to the fact that his actions demand consequences. The lawyer studies me with newfound respect. I underestimated you. Much like my client did, it seems. A common mistake, I acknowledge. One that usually only happens once. After Goldstein leaves, promising to present the options to Ethan, I find myself alone in the executive office for the first time. The Boston skyline stretches before me, the harbor waters glittering in the afternoon sun. How many times had Ethan stood at these same windows, plotting his next deception while admiring the view his stolen code had purchased? My reflection in the glass shows a woman transformed, not physically, but in the subtle signs of authority that now mark my posture and expression. Gone is the carefully cultivated softness Ethan preferred. In its place is something stronger, sharper, more authentic. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. I immediately recognize it as the burner phone Ethan keeps for emergencies. This is insane. You're destroying everything we built together. Call off the dogs and we can work this out. I made you who you are. I stare at the message, almost amused by his persistent delusion. Made me who I am? He spent years trying to unmake me, to transform a brilliant engineer into a decorative accessory for his ego. I don't bother responding. Instead, I forward the message to security to document another violation of the no-contact directive. My assistant knocks softly before entering. The development team has some questions about the reorganization plan. They're wondering if you'd join their afternoon meeting. Tell them I'll be there, I reply, gathering my tablet, and cancel my remaining appointments for today. I want to spend time with the people actually building our products. Even the call with the patent attorneys? Especially that. Reschedule for tomorrow morning. I need to speak with our developers first before making any decisions about patent reassignments. She nods, clearly approving of the priority shift. One more thing, Ms. Parker is in the lobby. I know her appointment isn't until tomorrow, but she's insisting it's urgent. I consider this for a moment. Have security bring her up, but stay in the room during our conversation. 10 minutes later, Natalie Parker sits across from me, looking significantly less polished than in her Instagram photos. Her designer outfit seems hastily assembled, her makeup slightly smudged, as if she'd dressed in a hurry. "Thank you for seeing me," she begins, her voice striking an uncomfortable balance between humility and calculation. "I know this is awkward." Awkward is an interesting choice of words, I reply coolly. I'd have gone with unethical, or perhaps potentially criminal. She winces. "I understand why you'd see it that way." Why I'd see your affair with my husband while helping him steal intellectual property as unethical. How else would one see it? Natalie shifts uncomfortably in her chair. "That's actually why I'm here. There are things you don't know about my involvement." "Such as?" "Ethan told me the algorithm was his. He said you were completely non-technical, a former art history major who couldn't code Hello World. When I started noticing inconsistencies in his technical explanations, he claimed it was just complex and I wouldn't understand without a computer science background." I maintain my neutral expression, though internally I'm noting how perfectly consistent this is with Ethan's pattern of behavior. Undermining women's technical competence was practically his hobby. "And when did you realize he was lying?" She looks down at her hands. "About 2 months ago. I found some of the original code with your signatures embedded in the comments. When I confronted him, he admitted you had helped a little with the initial concept, but insisted he had transformed it into something entirely different." "Ah, and you believed him?" "I wanted to," she admits. "But I'm not stupid. I started looking more carefully at the code repositories, and the more I looked, the more your fingerprints were everywhere. That's when I started gathering evidence. This catches me by surprise." "Evidence? For what purpose?" Natalie reaches into her designer bag and pulls out a flash drive. "Everything I collected is on here. Commit histories, email exchanges where he explicitly takes credit for your work, even recordings of him coaching me on how to present myself as a UI consultant when I was really just..." She trails off, her cheeks flushing. "Eye candy for potential investors?" I finish for her. She nods, embarrassed. I wanted to believe I was more than that my design input was valuable. But eventually, I realized I was just another prop in his show. I accept the flash drive but don't plug it in. That will happen only after our security team thoroughly scans it. "Why are you giving me this?" "Because what he did was wrong," she says simply, "and because I don't want to be collateral damage in his downfall. I'm a decent UI designer, not the genius he presented me as, but competent. I made mistakes, horrible ones, but I want a chance to make things right." I study her carefully, searching for signs of deception. What I see instead is something painfully familiar. A talented woman who allowed a charismatic man to define her worth, only to discover too late that she was merely a tool for his advancement. "I can't promise anything," I tell her finally. "This evidence will be reviewed by our security team, and if it's valuable, it will be considered in the overall investigation. As for your professional future, that depends on what we find and how completely you cooperate going forward." Relief washes over her face. "That's fair. More than fair, considering." "Considering you were sleeping with my husband while helping him steal my work?" I finish, allowing a hint of steel to enter my voice. She flinches but holds my gaze. "Yes, I'm not asking for forgiveness, just a chance to set things right." After she leaves, escorted by security, I turn the flash drive over in my hands, contemplating the complex web of manipulation Ethan has woven. How many talented people has he used and discarded? How many careers has he stunted or diverted for? His own advancement? The afternoon passes in a blur of meetings with the development team, conversations with the independent auditors, and preliminary discussions about restructuring the company's attribution and promotion systems. By evening, the initial shock of the morning's revelations has transformed into purposeful activity throughout the company. As I prepare to leave for the day, Richard appears in my doorway. "You've had quite the first day as CTO," he observes, a hint of pride in his voice. "Just the beginning," I reply, gathering my things. "The real work starts tomorrow when we begin implementing the new attribution framework. Eleanor and I have been discussing the company's position regarding Ethan," he says, his expression growing serious. "We'd like your input before making a final decision." I consider this carefully. As the company's CTO, my recommendation is to pursue whatever course best protects our intellectual property and maintains the trust of our development team. As a person who has been directly harmed by his actions, I probably shouldn't weigh in on his punishment. Richard nods appreciatively. A fair and thoughtful response. But Olivia, you're not just the CTO or his wife. Your family, regardless of what happens between you and Ethan going forward. Your perspective matters to us. The sincerity in his voice touches something in me I'd carefully walled off during the months of planning and documentation. "If you really want my opinion," I say finally, "I think offering him a path to redemption, a difficult, humble path with real accountability, would be better than simply casting him out. Not because he deserves mercy, but because it would demonstrate to the entire company that we value growth and correction over punishment." Richard studies me with newfound respect. "That's remarkably generous, given everything he's put you through." "It's not generosity," I correct him. "It's strategy." Reed Innovations needs to emerge from this crisis as an example of how tech companies should handle ethical breaches, with transparency, accountability, and a path forward. Besides, I add with a small smile, there's a certain poetry in Ethan, having to earn his way back up through the ranks, reporting to the woman he tried so hard to diminish. Richard's laugh is unexpected and genuine. I suspect that may be a more fitting consequence than any legal punishment. My phone buzzes with a notification from the home security system. Ethan is attempting to enter the Seaport condo, but his access has been revoked. "I should go," I say, showing Richard the alert. "It seems I have one more conversation to have today." He squeezes my shoulder supportively. "Remember, whatever happens with Ethan, you have a place in this family. You've earned it. Not by marriage, but by your integrity and brilliance." The drive home feels surreal, like traveling between two versions of my life. For years, I've lived as Ethan's supportive wife, carefully concealing my technical expertise to avoid threatening his fragile ego. Now I'm returning to our shared home as Reed Innovations CTO, no longer hiding who I really am. As I pull into the building's parking garage, I notice Ethan's Tesla parked haphazardly across two spaces. His typical entitled parking job. The security guard nods respectfully as I enter the lobby. "Mrs. Reed, Mr. Reed is waiting upstairs in the resident lounge. We explained that his access to your unit has been temporarily suspended per your instructions." "Thank you, Carlos. Has he been difficult?" The guard's professional demeanor doesn't quite hide his satisfaction. "Nothing we couldn't handle, ma'am," though he was quite surprised to learn that the condo is actually in your name, not his. Another detail Ethan never bothered to read in our financial arrangements. The condo was purchased with my Google signing bonus and stock options, a fact documented in our prenuptial agreement that he clearly skimmed rather than studied. I find him pacing the elegant resident lounge, his designer suit rumpled, his usually perfect hair disheveled from repeatedly running his hands through it. When he sees me, his expression cycles rapidly through relief, anger, and calculation before settling on a practiced charm that once would have melted my defenses. "Olivia, baby, thank God. There's been a terrible misunderstanding. We need to talk." I set my bag down on one of the sleek tables and regard him calmly. "Yes, we do, but not here." "They won't let me into our home?" he protests, gesturing dramatically toward the elevators. "Some nonsense about access restrictions." Not nonsense. Protocol. The company has suspended your access to all Reed properties pending the investigation. That includes the condo, which is technically a company residence. But it's our home. Actually, it's my home. If you check the deed and the prenup you signed, you'll find it was purchased with my assets before we married. I keep my voice even, devoid of the emotion he's clearly trying to provoke. I've arranged for you to stay at the Four Seasons until this situation is resolved. The reservation is under your name, though you'll need to use your personal credit. Cards, not the company accounts. He stares at me as if seeing me for the first time, which in a way he is. Gone is the accommodating wife who smoothed over his rudeness, who pretended not to notice his lies, who diminished her own brilliance to protect his fragile ego. You planned this, he finally says, his voice low with shock and dawning anger. All of it. For how long? Does it matter? The evidence speaks for itself. The code theft, the false attributions, the patent fraud, those are facts, Ethan, not interpretations or misunderstandings. We're married, he explodes. There's no such thing as stealing between partners. Everything I did was for us, for our future. Was Natalie for our future too? I ask quietly. He has the grace to flinch at that. That was a mistake, a stupid mistake that meant nothing. Like claiming my algorithm as your own? Was that also a meaningless mistake? His expression hardens. You weren't interested in the spotlight. You never wanted to present at conferences or meet with investors. I did what was necessary to make the company successful. No, you did what was necessary to make yourself look successful. There's a difference. He steps closer, his voice dropping to the persuasive tone that has charmed investors and tech journalists for years. Olivia, I know you're angry, and you have every right to be. I made mistakes, serious ones. But we can fix this together. You and me, like it's always been. It was never you and me, I correct him. It was you taking credit for my work while I stayed silent. It was you building your reputation on my innovation while introducing me as your beautiful but technically challenged wife. That's not fair, he protests. I always said you were brilliant. At art history, at design, at organizing charity galas. Never at what I'm actually brilliant at, coding complex algorithms that apparently made you famous. The truth of this hits him like a physical blow. He sinks onto one of the lounge's sleek sofas, his facade finally cracking. What do you want? He asks, his voice suddenly tired. Money? Public acknowledgement? My resignation? I want what I've always wanted, I reply simply. Recognition for my work and respect for my abilities. The difference is, I'm no longer asking for it. I've earned it, and I'm claiming it. I retrieve a folder from my bag and place it on the coffee table between us. Your lawyer will receive these officially tomorrow, but I thought you deserved to see them first. Option 1. Divorce papers with a generous settlement agreement, contingent on your full cooperation with the company investigation and your resignation from Reed Innovations. Option 2. A revised employment contract, placing you in a supervised development role reporting through the standard management chain, which now includes me as CTO. He stares at the folder as if it might bite him. You're giving me a choice between divorce and professional humiliation? I'm giving you a choice between a clean break and a chance at redemption. More than you gave the developers whose work you claimed as your own. His hand hovers over the folder but doesn't touch it. And if I fight this, all of it, the accusations, the divorce, everything, I meet his gaze steadily. Then the full evidence goes public. Every stolen line of code, every falsified report, every misappropriated innovation, along with the testimony of the other developers you've sidelined over the years. Your choice. For a moment, I see a flash of the man I thought I married, intelligent, perceptive, capable of growth. Then his expression hardens into something ugly and familiar. You'll regret this, he says, rising abruptly. You think you can run my department? You think the tech community will respect you after you publicly humiliated your husband? They'll see you for what you are, a vindictive woman who couldn't handle her husband's success. I smile, not unkindly. That narrative might have worked yesterday, but as of this morning, the independent audit has already confirmed my authorship of the core algorithm. By next week, the full report will document every instance of code theft from multiple developers. This isn't about our marriage, Ethan. It's about intellectual honesty and professional ethics. He grabs the folder from the table, his knuckles white with tension. This isn't over. Actually, it is, I reply, rising to leave. I've tolerated your lies, your affairs, and your credit stealing for years, always believing you might eventually see me as a true partner worthy of respect. Today, I finally stopped waiting for your validation and claimed what's rightfully mine. You can either accept that gracefully or fight it bitterly, but either way, the outcome will be the same. As I walk toward the elevator, he calls after me, his voice caught between anger and desperation. Olivia, you can't just… What am I supposed to do now? I turn back one last time, studying the man I once believed was my partner in everything. That's entirely up to you, Ethan. For the first time in our relationship, I'm not responsible for managing your emotions or protecting your ego. You'll have to figure this one out on your own. The elevator doors close on his stunned expression, and I feel a weight lifting that I didn't even realize I'd been carrying. Whatever he chooses, divorce or demotion, cooperation or conflict, I've finally reclaimed my voice, my work, and my future. Tomorrow brings a new challenge, transforming Reed Innovations into the company it always should have been, where innovation is celebrated regardless of who creates it, where attribution is scrupulously maintained, and where no one, no matter how charming or well-connected, can steal another's intellectual achievements. But tonight, as I enter my condo alone for the first time in years, I feel nothing but peace. On my home office wall hangs my MIT diploma, previously relegated to a back room at Ethan's insistence that it didn't match our decor. I trace my fingers over my name, remembering the brilliant, confident woman I was before I allowed someone else to define me. That woman isn't gone. She's been here all along, quietly documenting, patiently waiting, strategically planning for this moment of reclamation. My phone buzzes with a text from Eleanor. Whatever happens next, know that you'll always have a place in this family. Not as Ethan's wife, but as the remarkable woman you are. I smile, contemplating the strange, new reality, where my technical brilliance is no longer my best-kept secret but my most celebrated quality, where I no longer have to pretend to be less than I am to protect someone else's fragile ego. The Boston skyline glitters beyond my windows, the lights of Reed Tower prominent among them. Tomorrow, I'll return there not as Ethan's +1, but as the company's technical leader, ready to build something authentic on the foundation of truth we've established today. For tonight, though, I simply savor the quiet victory of being fully, completely myself for the first time in years. The trophy wife with no brains has finally claimed her rightful place, not as an accessory to someone else's success story, but as the author of her own. 1 year after the day that changed everything at Reed Innovations, I stand at the podium of the Women in Tech conference, surveying the packed auditorium. Hundreds of aspiring female developers look back at me, many taking notes, others nodding in recognition of shared experiences. The irony isn't lost on me. Speaking about authentic leadership to an audience that includes many who once dismissed me as Ethan Reed's decorative wife. The greatest barrier to innovation isn't technical, I tell them, my voice carrying clearly through the state-of-the-art sound system. It's the assumption that brilliance has a particular look, background, or demeanor. The most dangerous thing we can do is underestimate someone based on how they present to the world. The audience responds with knowing applause. Many have lived some version of my story, being overlooked, having their ideas attributed to male colleagues, being introduced by their appearance rather than their achievements. Reed Innovations has transformed over the past year, I continue, pulling up slides that show our company's dramatic evolution. We've implemented what we call transparent attribution, a revolutionary approach ensuring every contributor to our code is properly recognized, credited, and compensated, regardless of their role or position. In the front row, I spot Eleanor and Richard Reed, both beaming with pride. Beside them sits Sophia Zhang, now our head of advanced algorithm development, and several other developers whose careers have flourished under the new meritocratic system we've created. After my presentation, during the networking reception, a young woman approaches me, clutching her laptop nervously. "Mrs. Reed, your story changed my life," she begins, her voice trembling slightly. "I was ready to leave tech entirely after..." My supervisor kept presenting my work as his own. Then I read about what happened at Reed Innovations, and it gave me the courage to document everything and take it to our CEO. "And what happened?" I ask, though her bright smile already suggests. The answer: "I'm now leading my own development team," she says proudly. "And we've implemented our own version of your transparent attribution system." Stories like hers have become increasingly common as our company's transformation ripples through the tech industry. What began as a personal reclamation of my work has evolved into a movement for ethical attribution practices throughout the sector. Back at Reed Tower, I meet with our executive team to review the company's quarterly performance. The numbers tell a story that vindicates every difficult decision we've made. Revenue up 42%, developer retention improved by 67%, patent applications doubled, and industry recognition at an all-time high. The Harvard Business Review wants to do a case study on our transformation, Michelle informs me, sliding the request across the table. They're particularly interested in how our new attribution system has affected innovation rates. Tell them we're open to it, I decide, but only if they include the perspectives of our development team, not just leadership. As the meeting adjourns, Richard asks me to stay behind. When we're alone, his professional demeanor softens. "I received a letter from Ethan today," he says, his expression complex. His first since he began his community service. After months of legal negotiations, Ethan ultimately accepted a plea deal. No jail time in exchange for full restitution, extensive community service teaching coding to underserved communities, and public acknowledgement of his intellectual property theft. "How is he?" I ask, surprised by my own genuine curiosity. "Changed, I think," Richard says cautiously. "He's been teaching coding at a youth center in South Boston. Says it's the most meaningful work he's ever done." I nod, remembering the glimpses of a better man I occasionally saw during our marriage, the potential that had been overshadowed by his overwhelming need for validation and recognition. "He asked about you," Richard adds, watching me carefully. Not in a personal way. He wanted to know if the attribution system was working as well as the tech blogs are reporting. "And what did you tell him?" "The truth. That under your leadership, Reed Innovations has become the gold standard for ethical development practices in the industry." My phone buzzes with a notification. The final divorce papers have been processed. After a year of separation, complicated negotiations, and eventually a surprisingly amicable resolution, my marriage to Ethan Reed is officially over. The divorce is final, I tell Richard, showing him the notification. He sighs, the conflicted feelings of a father evident in his expression. "I'm sorry it came to this, Olivia. Not because I think you should have stayed with him. God knows he didn't deserve you. But because I know this isn't the life you imagined when you joined our family." "Actually," I say thoughtfully, "this is exactly the life I was qualified for, just not the one Ethan allowed me to have." Later that afternoon, I meet with our development team to review the next generation of our core algorithm. The collaborative energy in the room is palpable. junior developers freely contributing ideas alongside veterans, each secure in the knowledge that their innovations will be properly attributed and rewarded. Sophia Zhang presents a particularly elegant solution to a problem that had stymied the team for weeks. "This is brilliant," I tell her, genuinely impressed. "Make sure your name is prominently featured in the patent application." "Already done," she says with a confident smile. That would have been unthinkable a year ago. The new system automatically tags primary contributors. As the meeting concludes, my assistant reminds me of an unusual appointment on my calendar. "Ms. Parker is here for your 4-hour." Natalie Parker, the last person I expected to see again after she provided evidence against Ethan and then quietly disappeared from Boston's tech scene. I find her waiting in the visitors' lounge, looking markedly different from the polished social media influencer who once flaunted her relationship with my husband. Her designer clothes have been replaced by a simple professional outfit, her excessive makeup pared down to a natural look. "Thank you for seeing me," she begins, her demeanor notably humble. "I wouldn't have bothered you, but I wanted to deliver this in person." She hands me an envelope containing a handwritten letter of apology, along with documentation of a substantial donation to our women's coding scholarship in my name. "I've spent the past year reflecting on the role I played in everything that happened," she explains. "Not just the affair, which was inexcusable on its own, but in perpetuating a system that undermined women like you in tech." "What are you doing now?" I ask, genuinely curious about her journey. "I'm finishing my master's in UX design," she says with a hint of pride. "Legitimately this time, with actual training and credentials. And I'm working with an ethics and technology nonprofit, helping create guidelines for proper attribution in collaborative projects." As she leaves, I'm struck by how extensively the ripples of last year's revelations have spread, transforming not just Reed innovations, but individuals who were caught in Ethan's web of deception and ego. That evening, as I prepare to leave my office, I find Eleanor waiting by the elevator. "Join me for dinner?" she asks warmly. "The family is gathering at the house, and your presence would mean a lot to everyone." By family, she means the extended Reed clan, Richard's siblings, their children, Ethan's sister and her family. Though my marriage has ended, my place in the family has surprisingly solidified rather than dissolved. At the Reed family home in Beacon Hill, I'm greeted with genuine affection by people who once knew me only as Ethan's beautiful but supposedly non-technical wife. Now they seek my opinions on everything from technology trends to business strategy, my expertise no longer overshadowed by my appearance. During dinner, Richard raises his glass in a toast. To Olivia, who reminded us that the Reed family values integrity above all else, and that true innovation comes from recognizing brilliance wherever it appears. Later, as I help Eleanor clear the dishes despite her protests, she broaches the subject I've been expecting all evening. "Ethan asked if he could meet with you," she says cautiously. "Not for reconciliation. He's accepted that the marriage is over, but for closure. He says he owes you a proper apology, face to face." I consider this as I rinse a delicate crystal glass. A year ago, such a meeting would have seemed impossible, the wounds too raw, the betrayal too profound. Now, with Reed Innovations thriving, under my leadership and my self-worth no longer tied to Ethan's validation, I find I can contemplate it with equanimity. "I'll think about it," I tell her honestly, not for his sake, but perhaps for my own. The next morning, I visit the youth center in South Boston, where Ethan has been fulfilling his community service requirement. I don't announce my presence, choosing instead to observe quietly from the back of the classroom where he's teaching coding fundamentals to a group of teenage girls. What I see surprises me. Gone is the arrogant tech executive who spoke over women and claimed their ideas as his own. In his place is a patient teacher who listens more than he speaks, who guides rather than dictates, who celebrates his students' insights instead of appropriating them. When the class ends, he notices me immediately. The flash of emotions across. His face is complex: shame, regret, nervousness, and something that might be respect. "Olivia," he says simply, approaching cautiously. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Neither did I admit. Your mother mentioned you wanted to meet." He gestures to a small office adjacent to the classroom. "Could we talk? Just for a few minutes?" The office is Spartan: a desk, 2 chairs, a bookshelf filled with programming textbooks. Nothing like the luxurious executive suite he once occupied at Reed Tower. "I've rehearsed this conversation 100 times," he begins, "and every version sounds inadequate. But I'll try anyway. I'm sorry, Olivia, not just for the affair or for stealing your work, but for something far worse, for making you feel like you needed to be less than you are to protect my ego." I regard him carefully, searching for signs of the practiced charm he once wielded so effectively. Instead, I find something I've rarely seen from him: genuine humility. "Why did you do it?" I ask, the question that has lingered despite all the evidence and explanations. "You're intelligent, educated, from a family that gave you every advantage. Why steal what you could have earned honestly?" He considers this carefully before responding. "Fear, I think. Fear of not measuring up to my father's legacy. Fear that without extraordinary achievements, I'd just be another privileged son living off the family name. When I saw your algorithm, how elegant and revolutionary it was, that fear collided with opportunity. I convinced myself we were a team, that presenting your work as mine was just part of our partnership." "You could have actually partnered with me," I point out. "Imagined what we might have built together if you'd seen me as an equal." Pain flashes across his features. That's the greatest irony, isn't it? In trying to appear exceptional, I lost the chance to be part of something truly extraordinary with you. We talk for nearly an hour, not as former spouses rehashing grievances, but as 2 professionals conducting a post-mortem on a failed collaboration. By the time I leave, I feel something I hadn't expected. Not forgiveness exactly, but liberation from the last vestiges of doubt about my decisions. That evening, standing on the balcony of my seaport condo, I watch the lights of Boston flicker to life as dusk settles over the harbor. Reed Tower stands prominently among them, its illuminated logo a reminder of the legacy I'm now building, one founded on authentic innovation and genuine recognition. My phone buzzes with a message from Sophia. The new algorithm implementation has passed all its tests with unprecedented results. Attached is a screenshot of the attribution list, my name rightfully at the top, followed by every developer who contributed to its evolution. This, I realize, is what I've been working toward all along. Not personal vindication or revenge, but the creation of a system where everyone's contributions are valued, where no one needs to diminish themselves to accommodate another's ego, where innovation thrives because credit flows to its true sources. The journey from underestimated trophy wife to respected tech leader wasn't one I could have predicted, but standing here now, I wouldn't change it. Every dismissive introduction, every stolen idea, every moment I bit my tongue while Ethan explained, my own algorithm to me, all of it led to this transformation, not just of my career but of an entire company culture. My phone rings, the governor's office calling about the state's new technology ethics initiative. They want me to chair the committee developing attribution guidelines for Massachusetts' tech sector. As I accept the appointment, I reflect on how completely the narrative has changed. The woman once introduced as Ethan's beautiful wife is now the standard bearer for integrity in tech, while the man who built his reputation on stolen code is rebuilding his life from scratch. There's a certain perfect justice in that reversal, not the vengeful kind I once imagined in my darkest moments, but something more profound and lasting. The simple triumph of truth over deception, of authentic achievement over false claims, of being recognized for exactly who you are rather than who someone else pretends you to be. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.